Someone drank too much eggnog. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to another episode of Stories and Steeps. As you can see from my festive mug and my fun shirt and all the decor, this is going to be the Christmas episode. I hope you had a really wonderful Christmas this year if you celebrate. And if you don't, I hope you are just having a wonderful winter season. Hopefully we are all getting some rest and giving ourselves just the space to do nothing this time of year, especially with everything that's been going on in the world. It's important to just take some time to rest and relax. And I definitely did that this Christmas. We just had a really peaceful, quiet Christmas at our house. Just super low key. I watched a lot of Christmas movies. Part of how I really indulged in some self-care this December, I guess, and Christmas season was the books that I read. If you watched my previous two Stories and Steeps videos, you know that in October I read a lot of spooky books, and in November I did a lot of dark academia reads, which were all pretty heavy and emotional, just dealing with a lot of heavy content. So for December, I really wanted to read just fun, seasonal, festive books that were easy to read, lighthearted. Even, if there's drama or whatever, it just doesn't even make you feel too many feels, because I just really needed a break from the more intense reading that I had been doing. So I am really excited to share with you all the holiday books that I read this December and to tell you which teas I am going to pair with all of them. So let's get started. So I think we're just going to go in order of how I read them. So the first book that I read was The City Baker's Guide to Country Living. And this book I had seen recommended on a few channels, especially related to Gilmore Girls, which is interesting because that's going to come into play a little bit later with one of the other books that I read. But I do love Gilmore Girls, and I had seen some people recommending this. It even has a quote from Bon Appetit on the front that says, "Super cozy, okay, it's Gilmore Girls." So it's about this big city pastry chef who lives in Boston, and she kind of sets the fancy restaurant that she works at on fire, and then she needs a break, so she goes to Vermont, and she starts working at a little inn in Vermont. And while she's there, she, there's a little bit of romance. She meets a guy. There's a apple pie baking competition. It is set throughout kind of a lot of seasons, but there definitely is a big chunk that is sort of wintry, Christmassy, so it has that feeling for sure. And I just really love, those sort of cozy Vermont inn vibes. I don't know how much it's really like Gilmore Girls. I think it's more about the setting is like Gilmore Girls. I wouldn't say necessarily the characters or anything are. I guess the main character's kind of spunky. Like, she dyes her hair a lot, and, she kind of just has a sassy attitude a little bit. But I think it's more about sort of the setting of the book. So I did really enjoy it. It was very cozy. Really, all of these were chosen because I just wanted those cozy, festive Christmas vibes. And yeah, I would recommend it if you're looking for just an easy, cozy read. And of course, she's a pastry chef, and there's like this apple pie competition. So there's a lot of yummy baking. And actually, it even has in the back of the book the recipe for the blue ribbon apple pie that is made in the book. So that's kind of fun. I haven't made it. I do kind of have already an apple pie recipe, but I might try this specific one just to test it out. So that's kind of a fun little addition. So for this book, I'm going to pair it with, and I only have a little sample packet right now. I don't have the full thing at the moment. It is called Comfort and Joy from the Republic of Tea. And you'll be seeing a couple new brands and makers in today's video than in past videos. I just kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit, and I have a few Republic of Teas kind of hidden away in the back of my tea cabinet. So I sort of dug through and was like, what are some fun Christmas teas that maybe I don't drink as much but are stashed back there? So I have had this tea before. I just only have a sample right now. Or it's just a single packaged tea bag. It is black tea with cinnamon, natural flavors, cloves, licorice root, and apple pieces. So the reason I picked this is it has obviously all of the sort of Christmassy spices, which you'll see most of these do. Cinnamon, clove is like a really Christmassy spice to me. And then, of course, the apple pieces, which the apple pie baking is a really big plot point in the book. So I thought that went really well with it. Obviously, the Republic of Tea is a much bigger brand, not a small independently owned shop or maker, but they do make good tea, and they have some really cool theme teas, which are fun to pair with if you're looking for a theme for different books. So we're going to actually do another one of theirs next, and you'll see more of like a themed one, but this is just one of their sort of regular holiday flavors. Yeah. Boom. All right. Up next, we have a book that I just randomly came across at one of my favorite antique stores here in town. It's one of those stores that has different, it's not like a full antique mall, but they have different, sections with different people that have little booths. And one of the booths had a lot of different books, and I bought a couple. But this one drew my eye because it was Christmassy looking, and I knew that I was going to be doing this sort of Christmas reads for December, and it has a lot of my favorite things in it. So it is a cozy mystery, which is probably my main guilty pleasure genre. It's not really, I feel like no one really has guilty pleasures anymore. I don't really feel guilty about it, but just for lack of a better expression, it's kind of my main guilty pleasure genre. So cozy mysteries are just one of my favorite things to read when I want something just super easy to read and cozy and, makes you feel just good, because like the mystery is interesting. There's usually murder, which is fun, but it's never like too suspenseful or too scary. And there's always kind of a cozy setting, which I think is what makes it a cozy mystery. It's usually the person investigating is the owner of a tea shop or a bookstore or whatever sort of the specific story is. So this book is called Herald of Death, and it is by Kate Kingsbury. Oh, I forgot to mention, sorry. This one is by Louise Miller. This one is by Kate Kingsbury, and it is actually, I believe, the 5th book in this cozy mystery series that are all set in this English hotel during Christmas. So this author actually has several different cozy mystery series, but this specific one is every book, I believe, takes place at Christmas and is set in this hotel in England. And it is also set during like the Edwardian period, which is also one of my favorite things. So it's got the English vibes, cozy Christmas vibes, the, vintage Edwardian vibes, and it was just a delight. I just picked this one up because it was at this antique store. It's, like I said, I think it's the 4th or 5th one, but they're all kind of standalone. So you didn't really need to read any of the other ones to know what was going on in this one. But I do think now that I have read this one, I will probably try and pick up the other ones maybe in future Christmases. So that's the cover. And I also discovered in researching this author that she has recently started a cozy mystery series that the main character is the owner of a British-style tea shop on the Oregon coast. And I live in Oregon, and tea is my favorite thing, obviously. I used to work in a British-style tea shop, so I think there's only one of those written so far, but I'm really looking forward to reading that soon, so that you'll probably see that on a list at some point. But I enjoyed this for sure. Oh, it's snowing. It's been snowing the last couple of days, and it's just been so nice to have a white Christmas coming from Arizona where, wasn't even really that cold, to having, what I was used to growing up, which is a more sort of traditional, cold, snowy Christmas. So that's been really lovely. For this book, I chose another Republic of Tea that I've kind of had stashed away for a while because it is... Well, I don't know if it was like limited edition. Oh, yeah, it is a limited edition. So I actually don't know if you can even buy this tea anymore. I haven't looked at their website, but it's a Downton Abbey tea. I bought a couple of these different Downton Abbey themed teas when they came out. And one of the obvious reasons why I chose this is sort of the Downton Abbey time period, kind of goes along with this time period, at least sort of the beginning of Downton Abbey. And it is called Downton Legacy Tea, and it is a plum pudding black tea. So it has fine black tea, natural vanilla flavor, cinnamon, plum flavor, elderberries, and sloe berries. It's not specifically Christmas themed, but I feel like plum pudding definitely has a Christmassy vibe. It has, like I said, those different Christmassy flavors. Cinnamon and plum, and I think elderberries kind of are a festive flavor as well. So I just thought that one went very well. And honestly, this tea's pretty old because there's like 2 tea bags left in here because like it was so cute that I don't want to drink it all and then get rid of it. But I mean, it still smells good. The nice part about tea is it just doesn't really go bad unless it has a lot of oils or something, but I could definitely still drink this now. Yeah, so those 2 I thought worked really well together, and I was excited that I dug this out of the back of my tea shelf. I think that I probably need to rearrange my tea shelf. There's so many teas crammed in there that I honestly sometimes don't even remember what's at the back. So I might do a video at some point where I'm sort of rearranging that and making it look nicer and making it so you can actually see all the options because it's a mess right now. I'm going to be honest with you. The next book is one that I think probably a lot of people read this Christmas season because it just came out, and it is The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. And if you follow any YouTube channels that talk about books a lot, especially if they are really into bookshop, well, I don't know why you would have a book YouTube channel if you weren't into bookshops, but you know, if they're really into cozy reading vibes, then probably have heard them talk about this series. I believe this is the 3rd book. I've only read the first one, and then this came out and it was Christmas, so I wanted to read this, but I need to go back and read the second one. And the nice thing about them is that they are all based on different characters, so even if I missed the second one, it doesn't, like, this is a standalone book, so I didn't need to know what happened in the second one to know what happened in this one. And I will definitely say that I enjoyed this one more than the first one that I read. I liked the first one. I think the romance in that one kind of felt shoehorned in a way that, I don't know. I just wasn't as into sort of the romance relationships part of that one. I was really into the vibe of the main character. She got laid off from her job at the library, and then she wants to start this little book van. So all of that was totally up my alley. Obviously, we're not talking about that book right now, but just to compare this one, the main character is less bookish to start. She is a pretty big reader, but not, you know, she's not like a librarian or anything like that. But the overall vibe of this book, I enjoyed way more. And the sort of romance relationship was pretty minimal. I mean, I don't know about minimal. It was kind of a little bit of a through line. I don't know. I just felt like there was more focus on the bookshop and her relationship with her family and her relationship with the bookshop owner. So the main character's name is Carmen. She also gets laid off from her job, but she worked at a department store. And then her sister, Sophia, who she thinks like leads the perfect life or whatever, gets her this job helping one of Sophia's clients because Sophia's a lawyer, I believe. She gets Carmen a job helping one of her clients with his bookshop because he needs to basically turn a profit or he's going to like lose everything. His name is Mr. McCready, and he has, you know, he comes from wealthy family, but the wealth has kind of been squandered, so he just has this bookshop left is the only thing he really cares about. So Carmen moves to Edinburgh, which is where the bookshop, which is, let me say, one of the best parts about this book is like Christmas in Edinburgh, which all the descriptions of the town and the different shops and the bookstore were all just so cozy. One of the other main shops down the street is like a witch shop, which I'm definitely into that. And just the whole vibe is just super cozy, wintry, and Christmassy. And I've never been to Edinburgh, but I would certainly love to go there, especially at Christmas time. So that was kind of the big draw of this book for me. There is a little bit of a romantic relationship, but it's not really a main focus, which I have nothing against romance, but a lot of several of these other ones were like pretty heavy on the romance. And sometimes I just like to have, you know, kind of a cozy story where that isn't the focus as much. So I really felt like that in this book. And it was just such a good Christmas read. And the cover is just so pretty. And then also, I liked the family relationship story a lot. I actually don't have any siblings, so I can't necessarily relate, but I thought they did the sort of tension between the siblings really well. And if you do have siblings, then I'm sure you will relate extra hard to this book, so you probably will enjoy it even more. So the tea that I chose for this one is one by the Wild Soma, which if you've seen my previous Stories and Steeps, you know that I have a ton of her teas. Only one of them in today's video. It is called Black Fig and Pear. Look at that label, so cute. And it is an oolong tea with hand-cut black mission fig, pear slices, cinnamon chips, rosemary, fennel, and vanilla essence. So it's honestly smells so good. Oh, it smells so good. And like you can see, it has just huge chunks of pear and fig in there. And the rosemary, I love rosemary. Everything about this tea is delicious. I chose this because even though this takes place in modern times, it kind of has like an old-fashioned, I don't know, vintagey kind of feel to it, because obviously Edinburgh is really old, so all the little shops and things, the street is like the historic part, and the shop that she works at, it's like a shop but also a whole house and apartment up above that Mr. McCready's family has owned for a long time, and that has a really sort of vintagey feel. And I just felt like fig and pear, cinnamon and rosemary, like all of those things feel very holiday-ish to me, like winter holiday, but also in kind of an old-fashioned way. So that was why I picked this one. It just has a real richness to it. It's hard to explain, but I just feel like really embodies kind of the atmosphere of this book. So I would recommend. Sometimes the pairings are really obvious and sometimes they're a little harder to describe. This is one where just read this and drink this tea and I think you'll understand. It's a really, really good tea. So I also think another thing about this one is it does have holiday vibes, but it's not like too overtly Christmassy. So some of the other ones we'll get to in a second, you'll see are like Christmas with jazz hands. This one, I think, while working really well for the Christmas season and for this book, also is like really good for the rest of winter as well. It just has flavors that will continue to work for the rest of the season. So that's really nice. Oh, also, we'll talk about this a little more at the end, but I ordered this used on Amazon, even though it's like brand new. And the seller accidentally sent me 2 copies. I wrote them and said, hey, you sent me 2 copies. Like, what do you want me to do? And they were like, that's okay. Just keep the extra one. It's just a little gift. So thank you to that Amazon seller for being so lovely and not making me send it back. But what that means is that I now have an additional copy. It is, once again, used, but it's in really good condition. So I was thinking about doing maybe a giveaway for it over on my Instagram, and we will talk about that a little more at the end. Next up, we have another one that you probably have seen around a lot on the internet, or if you follow book accounts, is this one. It was published last year, but I've also seen a lot of people reading it this year, and it is called In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, who is actually 2 people, a writing team. So Christina is the first name of one and Lauren is the name of the other. And it is definitely a very Christmassy read. The whole thing takes place at Christmas. Basically, the main character gets stuck in a time loop, which is something that always intrigues me. Time loop movies especially are one of my husband's favorite things, so we are always looking out for time loop stuff. Oh, it's snowing so hard. So yeah, she gets stuck in this time loop at Christmas, and she kind of has to figure out why she's stuck. What is it that she's supposed to figure out that's going to break the time loop and let her continue to live her life, I guess. And this one is very heavy on the romance. So one of the main plots is her family is really good friends with a couple of other families because the parents all went to college together. And so her and the 2 brothers of this one other family have basically grown up together. And she's like always had a crush on the older brother. And the story is her trying to figure out that relationship. Like, she tells him that she loves him basically, and then trying to navigate that. So it's definitely heavy on the romance, but in a fun way. It's got a little sexy stuff in it. Not too spicy, but there's a little bit of sexiness in there if that's something that you either are looking for or are not looking for. And yeah, it's just a really fun read. The time loop is really fun. I will say, I think maybe one more loop would have been just right. And I understand in the book because you don't want to have to describe the same thing again, but I feel like maybe like a quick restart of it one more time and being like, everything happened the same except then she made this choice or something would have felt just the right amount. I felt like that sort of time loop part ended pretty early on in the book, and then like the whole second half of the book was just her figuring out the current iteration of that she was in. That being said, it was still very enjoyable. It was a super fun read, definitely very Christmassy, and yeah, I can see why this is a popular one that everybody's reading. So to pair with that, a tea from the third tea maker that I have not yet shared teas on Stories and Steeps yet, but she is also one that I buy a ton. So I think I mentioned before, there's kind of 3 people that I buy the most tea from, and you've already seen 2 of them a lot in the past videos. This is the third one, and I actually have 2 teas from her for this video. The first one is called Candy Cane Lane, and I put it in this mason jar because the packaging that it comes in, you know how when you try and open a bag of chips and you're like trying to be real careful about it, but instead you rip it so far down that like the chips are just coming out? Like there's no way to like re-roll it up and seal it. I'm so bad about that. Anyway, for some reason her packaging I always manage to do that and just totally ruin it. So I will often just transfer them from her packaging into just a mason jar. And luckily the little label that's on the packaging can kind of peel off, and then I just re-stick it to the mason jar so you can see I still have the label for it on there. And her shop is called Joyful Alchemy. She has really amazing teas as well as soaps and a few other things that she makes. So this one, I don't know if you can see, but it has little tiny candy canes in it, which is so cute. Like little candy cane candies. It's just so festive and fun. The tea is lovely vanilla black tea with peppermint leaves, red and white peppermint sprinkles, miniature chocolate chips, and tiny candy canes. So it is a very minty tea, but in a, I don't know, sweet way, I guess. It's not like mint. It's like vanilla, mint, chocolate. I guess it's kind of like if you have hot chocolate and then you put like a candy cane in it, or you put peppermint schnapps or something, that kind of creamy, chocolatey, minty flavor. That's what we got going on here. It's so good. And honestly, really unique, because I feel like most teas that have mint in it they just are like mint taste, you know? But this one just is a really unique and delicious, delicious flavor. So I highly recommend that. And so I picked this tea to go with this because I just really feel like it's just fun, you know? It's very Christmassy. The little candy canes, vanilla, chocolate, all of it just feels super festive. And also it's just a really good time, which I feel like this book is a really good time. It's just a fun read. And this is a fun Christmassy tea. So I feel like they go so well together. Last but not least, we have one that I saw on someone that I follow on Instagram, Hannah. She started this brunch babes thing back in Tucson when I lived there and she lived there. And I never actually went to any of the brunches because I am an introverted stay-at-home person, but she has really amazing Instagram accounts, and she also has a reading account because she's super into reading and books. She has a really fun Instagram account, which I will post below if you're interested in books to follow her there. She posted about this book, and I was just like, yes, I should probably read that because I love Pride and Prejudice, and it's so festive. Look at the cover. It's also the shortest of all of these books. It's only 225 pages. I've actually just started it on Christmas, so I'm not quite finished with it, but enough to know how I feel about it, I think. And I just thought it would be a perfect sort of way to close out my Christmas reads for this season. It is a gender swap modern Pride and Prejudice. So the main character, Darcy, her name is Darcy Fitzwilliam. The main guy who becomes sort of the main love interest, his name is Luke Bennett. So there's like the Fitzwilliam family, there's the Bennett family, her best friend's name is Bingley. So it's all the characters from Pride and Prejudice, but done in a modern version and kind of swapped around. So the idea is she has made this huge name for herself in New York. She is like a stock market person. I forget what exactly her job is. Something to do with stocks. And she is very, very rich. I guess the idea is like she's obviously the Darcy character, so she's very prideful. She's made this big name for herself. She sort of comes off as snobbish to other people. And then she goes back home for Christmas where she hasn't been for like 8 years because her mother has a heart attack. So she finally goes home for Christmas and she sort of realizes that she loves this character who's obviously like the Lizzie Bennet character, and he's a carpenter, like down to earth, really works with his hands, and he thinks she's a big snob. So he's the Lizzie Bennet prejudiced character. Oh, so the thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video about Gilmore Girls is in this book, Gilmore Girls is like her guilty pleasure show, and she's just like, oh, I don't want anyone to know that I watch Gilmore Girls because they just think it's a stupid show. And I'm just like, who do you think your audience is for this book? Because I'm pretty sure everyone reading this book is like, loves Gilmore Girls probably. I don't know, I just feel like there's probably a lot of overlap between Gilmore Girls fans and people who are reading this book. And to basically make it seem like Gilmore Girls is just like a bad, cheesy watch that you would be embarrassed by. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the point, is like her character thinks that. But I was just like, all right, I don't know about that. But she loves Gilmore Girls, and that kind of just tied in with the thing we were talking about earlier. So, well, hello, Mr. Cat. What are you doing? Mr. Cat's helping. So yeah, I will say like this one is a fine read. Like all of these definitely were not, I was not like, oh, I'm disliking this. This one is maybe my least favorite so far. It's certainly not bad, and I am having a fine time reading it. Like I'm enjoying it, but probably would be least likely to reread this out of all of them. I would say the one that I'm most likely to reread is probably this one because it just was my favorite, I think. And I don't know, I guess maybe I'm discovering that I like don't really care about a lot of romance in books as much. Like this one, the whole time she's just like, he's so perfect and is perfect this and is perfect that. And I'm just like, all right, we get it. He's perfect. I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded. But I think I like something that has a little more, like I just like the vibe and the atmosphere more than I care about like the romantic relationship. So this one is mostly the relationships, I feel like. Like it is Christmas time and there is Christmas parties and they drink eggnog and go ice skating. But somehow I just feel like it's the one that I probably am into the least of all the ones that I've read. So that being said, I'm still enjoying it. I'm not quite done, but I definitely will finish it probably later today. So for this one, I chose another tea by Joyful Alchemy. It's called Winter Cheer. And sorry about the reflection there. This is another one that just has enormous chunks of deliciousness in it. I don't know if you can see that, but it has like whole little pieces of cinnamon stick and chunks of orange and oh, it smells so good. Oh my God. Oh, and this one is caffeine free. So all the other ones so far have been black-based teas. This one is a caffeine-free tea, so I have been drinking the heck out of this in the evenings, basically for the last month, because it's so Christmassy feeling and just a really good nighttime tea. And it has hibiscus, cinnamon, ginger root, orange peel, and orange slices, cinnamon oil, and orange oil. So I think that's where it just, the fragrance comes really strongly from those oils, but it doesn't taste super fake. I don't know how to describe it. It's just really a really strong flavor, but really delicious. And the hibiscus means when you brew it, it just turns this really lovely red color from the hibiscus, which also is perfect for Christmas, like a really festive, seasonal, bright red color. So I'm really loving this one a lot. And I will say that these ones are seasonal, but she does them every year. So I think you can probably still get these in her shop right now, but she doesn't have them all year round. But every year, like probably for the past, a long time, like 10 years maybe. She's based on Whidbey Island, and I started in Washington, and I started buying her teas when I lived in Oregon the first time before I moved to Arizona. So that was over 11 years ago. So you know it's good if I'm buying the same teas every year for like 12 years. But yeah, I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. It's just like, bam, all of those spices and flavors, the orange and the cinnamon, in your face, delicious Christmas feeling, which this is also kind of in your face. You know, the characters and stuff, I kind of feel like, especially Darcy, the main character, is she just does her thing, you know, and this tea is doing its thing, and that thing is amazing. Just goes really well, I think. It feels festive. What more could you want? So there you go. As always, none of these teas or books are sponsored. I buy all of the tea myself. Have way too much of it. I mean, you can never have too much tea. There is kind of a big eggnog thing in this. Like, they drink a lot of eggnog, and I really wish that I had an eggnog flavored tea. I don't know if anybody makes an eggnog flavored tea, but I maybe will try and find one now because that sounds really good. If you know of any eggnog flavored teas, please let me know down in the comments because I really want to keep an eye out for one now. So that's all the Christmas books I read in December and all of the teas that I would pair with them. I hope some of those recommendations are ones that you thought sounded good, and maybe you will look into those Christmas reads or teas for next year, or honestly, even for this year. I don't think that just because Christmas is over, it means you can't read holiday books anymore, so I would definitely recommend picking any of these up still if you think you want to read them. I'd love to know in the comments if you read any holiday books this year that you really loved. Maybe I can add them to my TBR for next holiday season. Or if I just feel still in the holiday spirit in January, maybe I'll work on a few more holiday books. So definitely shout those out down below if there's any that you just love. And also, if you have any festive teas that you're into, especially now that I'm making these videos, I'm always looking for new teas, new brands of tea, and I would definitely love to know if you have any that you've been drinking a lot this season. So that is all for now. Oh, I guess not quite. So I think I'm going to do a giveaway of this over on my Instagram. Since I got an extra copy, my Instagram is Buccaneers N, like the letter N, ball gowns. And I will also link it down below so you can find it easily. If you just follow me over there, I will try and post a giveaway for this probably this next week. And probably just need to follow and comment, you know, the usual Instagram giveaway type thing. So yeah, if you want to potentially win this, just head over there to my Instagram and follow so that you'll see when I post about that. I'm really excited about that because that was my favorite one that I read this month, and I'm excited to have that extra copy to give away. Also, please like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see the future Stories and Steeps videos or other videos that I do. Thank you once again for hanging out with me. I am always excited to share the books that I've been reading and some of my favorite teas. It just makes me so happy to be able to share something that I love with you all, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your December and a lovely new year, and I will see you next time.